All right. Happy Easter. Little TGI Friday late on a Sunday intentionally. I wanted to wish everybody a happy Easter and hope you got to spend some time with some family and friends. That's very important for mental wellness. A couple quick updates here. The last supposed day of arbitration on the day off cancellations will be Tuesday morning. So the first deputy is finally slated to testify. We'll see if he ends up showing up. He's been dodging this testimony for quite a while now and prolonging it. But we are aware of the release of the limited time due requests indefinitely, apparently. That's clearly going to be addressed. This way of doing business cannot continue. It is terrible for morale. It is unsafe for the men and women of this police department who are already working ungodly hours repeatedly with no explanations, rhyme or reason why they have to stay late, why their days off are getting canceled, why their time due requests are being scrutinized. It's time you earned. It's just ridiculous. And the sad reality is, unless something changes, we got 10 more months of this failed leadership at the very least. Another update is the discipline component with Ramel for the COVID issue. The supplemental award was out. Unfortunately, he did not address officers who were in no paid status for more than 35 days. Your guess is as good as mine. It's just head scratching to say the least. We're not letting it go. There's going to be some movement on that Monday or Tuesday. This needs to get resolved and wrapped up so everybody can kind of move on from that component of this ridiculous policy. The supplemental award itself is wrong. It separates length of time and no paid status when, again, the simple violation was the insubordination and disobeying of a direct order, which has never been a fireable offense. But the city tried to play this game from the beginning, and they're still pushing the issue. And the fact that the difference between a verbal reprimand and a one-day suspension is the difference between 9 days and no pay and 10 days and no pay. It makes no logic whatsoever, and we're not going to be satisfied with it. It's going to be fought. So stay tuned for that. I could also tell you Wednesday is the general meeting. There is bylaw votes going on Wednesday night at the general meeting. There will be many police organizations providing the food in the courtyard. The Papa Polish Police American Association, I'm going to probably forget one or two, Scandinavian, the Hellenic Police Association, the Jewish officers, I believe the Hispanic Alliance is showing up. Let me think. There's two more that I'm forgetting. The Emerald Society, I believe, is going to be there with food. So there'll be plenty of food, plenty of different kinds. If you're interested in these organizations, feel free to come out. But we definitely want everybody to have a chance to have their voices heard when it comes to these bylaw votes. Because sadly, a specific newspaper reporter and a former member of the lodge decided to put out a lot of misinformation in the Sun Times. So I'm going to clarify some simple points here. There are 3 bylaw proposals being put forth. None of the bylaw proposals cost a dime, one extra penny, period. Full stop. Anybody who says otherwise is being disingenuous and lying. The first one is the elimination of the past president's spot. That, in theory, will eventually be my spot one day, or would be. I never understood it then. I don't understand it now, which is why I put forth the proposal change. If the membership votes you out of office, there is no reason you should have a vote on the board of directors. It just doesn't make sense. The members do not want to hear what you have to say. You should not be making decisions for the membership at that point. That is the reason to eliminate that spot from the board of directors going forward. And all of these take place, this takes place in the next term. We'll deal with that at a later date. But that's proposal number 1. Proposal number 2 was a repeal of a proposal that was voted on about 5 years ago, I think, maybe 4, about a penalty for pension. So right now, if you're working upstairs as a unit rep, you get captain's pay. That's always been the case. Actually, it used to be even more than that. It used to be commander's pay, and the president got deputy chief's pay. That was lowered under Dean Angelo's administration, and rightly so. But the reality is you're doing the work every day like everybody else up in the office representing the members of the police department. The sad reality is when you get forced into retirement, you get penalized. You no longer get that full paycheck as a captain's pay for doing the work that you've been doing the whole time. You only get now step 10 of the salary schedule, period, for a 25-year base patrolman on top of the pension you receive. That pension is the money you earned for the last 20, 25, 30 years plus. It should not be penalized. You are entitled to that pension just like everybody else because you earned it. The salary you get paid by the lodge is money you get because you earn it every day you're coming to work and doing the work for the men and women of Chicago Police Department. This has been an issue ongoing. It didn't really get resolved very well the last time this was addressed. So again, it's what I call the pension penalty provision and rescinding it because it should have never passed when it did 4 years ago. I wasn't for it then, and I'm certainly not for it now, which is why I'm bringing it up now. And the reason I'm bringing it up now, as opposed to later in the year when the bylaws call for members' submissions to be voted on in September after clearing processes with the Bylaw Constitution Committee and the Board of Directors, is because under the presidential privilege, I have the ability to bring these bylaws anytime I see fit with an issue. This is an issue because one of our field reps will be mandatorily retired at the end of May. This will affect him. He will get penalized his 30 plus years of service to this police department and his job as a field rep up at the FOP. It's wrong. So we need to address this now. That's why it's getting done at the April meeting. Lastly, and this is the joke of the bunch that people are losing their mind over. It's increasing the length of terms from 3 years to 5 years. This does not increase the current term any way, shape, or form. Never was in consideration, nor is it possible. So for a Sun-Times reporter who supposedly, is supposed to be around long enough to know better, I can only assume the fact that I won't talk to them is trying to ignite a firestorm and trying to get me to respond personally, but it's not going to happen. And for the former member who was quoted in that article talking about the changes and outright lied, period, was very deceptive in his statements. They are not true. The term increases to 5 years going forward starting in the next election cycle. And it's for one very simple reason. Well, two, I guess you could say. One is financial. I told you at the beginning of this that this was not costing the lodge more money. It's actually going to save the lodge money because the last election cycle cost our lodge over about 225 plus in the general election and the runoff election to hold. Every 3 years, that is a giant chunk of money. So it could be one, better spent doing it spread out over 5 years as opposed to 3, number one. Number two, and probably more important, is the ability to do big projects. We said there was a lot of things we wanted to do coming into this administration. And unfortunately, weeks after we took office, George Floyd happened. It's been riots and nonstop nonsense every day since then because of this mayor and this leadership in the police department. It's putting one fire out after another after another. We have not been able to address some of the big projects that I had hoped we had some progress on by now, but two specific ones. One, a new lodge. Our lodge is too small. It has very limited parking. It needs to be bigger. That's just a simple fact. The time and effort it's going to take to find property, get architectural drawings, etc., is going to be pretty lengthy. It doesn't make sense to start a project that a possible next administration would just table. It'd be all wasted effort. So again, length of term allows us to do big things. And the bigger project and the more substantial project for the long-term health of this lodge is free health care for active and retired members, similar to what they have in Philadelphia. We talked about it a couple years ago when we were running for office. It is still on the radar. The health screenings are going to be coming up sometime this summer, so stay tuned for that. But that is a heavy lift to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted and what that looks like going forward. That is not a 1 year or a 2 year project. That is a step-by-step process that's going to take some time. So the thought was, if we had longer terms, we'd have the ability to do bigger things and bring this lodge up to the forefront. We are the biggest lodge, the FOP lodge in the country. We need to start acting like it and not just, oh, we're kind of there. There's no reason. I mean, we could do things a little better or get some best practices from other lodges across the country, no doubt about that. But when it comes to sheer size, no one's even close to second place. We need to start doing big things and let everybody know, especially the leaders in this city, that we are no longer going to stand by and take handouts. We are going to be a force to be reckoned with, period. Lastly, as you can see, Peacemakers Project 703 was founded by Amber Oberheim, who lost her husband, Chris, in the line of duty, was murdered last year. It's a hell of an organization. Take a look at it. She's a phenomenal force for law enforcement across this state. She's testified at Springfield on behalf of law enforcement, and it's just a really unique organization. If you can reach out and help them in any way, their website's up and running, and give it a look. Thank you. I'll have an update for you on the Rommel and the day off arbitration when it comes to First Deputy Carter's testimony, probably Monday or Tuesday at the latest. Thank you.